What's going on, everybody? Jesse Joden back with another Co-Angler Diary. This tournament I'm going to High Rock Lake. It's the middle of April. This is the one I have circled on my calendar, and not for good reasons. This is the one I'm dreading the most because April's for sight fishing, spawning bass. I looked at the moon phases. We're in between the full moon and the new moon, so that's really good. I mean, last weekend was the full moon. This weekend's in between, and then next weekend's the new moon. Yeah, there's bass that definitely spawn on the moons, and there's bass that don't spawn on the moons. No matter what, there's going to be some bass caught sight fishing. That's probably the worst thing for a co-angler, is getting drawn with a guy sight fishing. There's a few ways to battle it. Basically, if they're locked up on a bed, I really just fan cast. And one of the most important things I do is I pay a lot of attention to the water. One, you can't get frustrated. He's trying to do whatever he needs to win. If he's looking at him, if he power pulls down, he's on a bass for an hour, you're just gonna have to deal with it. I mean, there's no other way to look at it. You can't get frustrated. But one thing I look for is I look at my surroundings, where I can cast to, and I start to think about where might a bass bed. Obviously you don't know that unless you can see one, but I'm looking at the degree of the bank. If it's really steep, a bass probably isn't going to spawn there. So I'm looking for those flatter banks, or those 45-degree banks. I'm also looking for pea gravel, some sort of hard bottom. I don't want really big chunky rock, but just something that is hard bottom, not too soft and not real chunky rock. I don't think the bass spawn on that too well. And one thing I really look for is fish movement. Just really paying attention. I know it's hard. You're frustrated. You really don't want to be sitting in one spot, but just paying attention to those. Look for an area where they might spawn, and then just focus on it. 'Cause what happens sometimes is there's bass on beds that you can't see, or maybe the boater didn't see them. That will chase bluegills away, and there'll be wakes and just fish. You're looking for fish movement, and then you can at least target something. I do have a few baits that I like to target and use during the spawn. The first one is going to be a Nico rig. You guys seen me use a Nico rig a lot on my channel. It's actually for sight fishing. It's one of my favorite baits. But when my guys pulled down, I just think it's such a natural bait. I could throw it up on the bank. I could throw it under the dock. I could throw it out in the middle and just fish it really slow. And it's such a finesse type bait that if I can just get it around a fish, sometimes I feel like I can bite it. And then another bait that I like to throw, I use a different type of rig. This is still a Texas rig. This is just a Texas rig. I'm going to High Rock Lake. I feel like the fish like red flake. That's the only reason I'm using that bait. This is just a California Love baby destroyer from Missile. And you can see my weight right there. I don't have it, it's on 2 bobber stops. See the bobber stop there, and then a bobber stop there. So basically I rig my weight with 2 bobber stops. I could slide both of them all the way down, have my peg Texas rig like always. Sometimes if I see a bank, I actually got onto them at Chickamauga a couple years ago. The boater I drew, it was in April. We were fishing for spawners that we couldn't see. We just got on a bank where, the fish were out, and I just took my Texas rig and just slid the weight up the line just a little bit, almost like a mini Carolina rig, and just start dragging it around. That bait just hovering up off the bottom, not getting down there on the bottom, actually worked really well. It's just something with I usually just Texas rig it just like always, so I could flip, docks, lay downs, whatever. But every once in a while, like if my boater sits down on a bedded bass, I'll slide that sucker up the line. I'll make far casts and just drag it really slow. And then one other bait I like to carry with me, if you get into a really shallow backwater pocket, he's up, in a 6 inches of water looking for a sight fish, and the whole pocket's pretty shallow. This bait does pretty well for me, this time of year, and a lot of times you can catch a really big fish doing it. And that is simply some sort of walking bait. This is a Berkeley drift walker in bluegill color. I've caught some really nice ones just on this white one. Just throwing it, literally, if he power pulls down in a pocket where, I can't even cast to 4 foot of water, That's where I'll tie one of those suckers on, just throw it out in the middle of the pocket, just fan cast. I've caught some really nice fish, you know, behind my boaters over the years while they're sight fishing on those two baits. So wish I had more suggestions for you guys. It's just the biggest tip that I have for you is if you get with a sight fisherman and he's really locked in, is just don't get spun out, don't give up, just keep throwing. A lot of times you can throw to a dock 100 times, and sometimes on that 101st cast to that dock you might get a bite. So just don't get frustrated, just keep throwing. Don't be afraid to use finesse baits, you know, Ned rigs, drop shots, shaky heads, and wacky rig Senko is a great bait. I like the Nico rig a little bit better. Hope that helped you guys. I'm heading to High Rock. I just got all my tackle all rigged up, got my bag packed. I'm a little nervous about this one. Hopefully they got some rain down there the weekend before. There's definitely some color in the water. Hopefully I get a guy that is just going down the bank, just fishing slow, looking for the ones that are on bed that you can't see. That's probably how I would attack it if I was a boater. I just really hope I don't get with a sight fisherman, but if I do, I'll have to put these little tips to use. Hopefully I can catch a fish. So next time you'll see me is when I come home from High Rock. Hopefully I have some good news for you guys. Right now I'm sitting 4th in the Angler of the Year points. My goal is to win Angler of the Year points. I know it's on the co-angler side, but that's my goal. Thanks for watching, and like I said, wish me luck. Next time you see me is we'll do a little recap of the video and tell you what I learned and stuff like that. So see you there. Have a good day. Well guys, we're back from High Rock Lake. It was a good day. I ended up winning the tournament on the co-angler side, as well as getting big bass of the tournament. And that's usually what it takes. I've won 4 tournaments, 4 ABAs as a co-angler. 3 of those 4 I've won big fish. The one I didn't, I barely missed winning big fish. Big fish that tournament was 511. I had 2 505s. That was the only tournament where I won an ABA without winning lunker. So usually you got to win lunker to win an ABA, as well as you got to fill out your limit too. I've have a couple lunkers where I got 2nd place, and I had a couple lunkers where I only caught 1 fish. So is what it is. This was my 5th ABA win. I have now 4 on the co-angler side. I was able to win 1 on a boater side a couple years ago. That was this guy. That's a different story, but so I was able to win my 5th ABA. This was the one I was not looking forward to, mostly because it was, you know, North Carolina in April. I was really scared of getting a guy sight fishing. I know there was a lot of fish caught off the bed. I know there was a lot of fish spawning, but it was weird. Neither me or my boater got a lot of bites. He got 5 bites all day. He won the tournament on the boater side. Right off the bat in the morning, we started on a spot in a creek that I actually found some fish in last year and convinced him to go over there. He was pretty unsure of where to go or what to do. He said he caught some fish, you know, basically he caught 2 fish in one spot. But that was it in that entire creek. And I said, well, I really like that creek. So we went there, started on his spot. He was throwing a moving bait on some rocks, paralleling the bank. I mean, I didn't have a whole lot of room to cast, so I just picked up a jig, the exact same jig I showed you guys from Lake Gaston. This is a 1/2 ounce brown living rubber mop jig. This is actually the chunk that I was showing you from Gaston. I never even put it back in the tackle box. The only difference that I did to this jig that I didn't do at Gaston is instead of using a chunk trailer, I was throwing a power bait chigger crawl green pumpkin. Right off the bat in the morning, I caught a 530. Probably 3rd cast of the day with that jig. Set the hook, it come right underneath the boat. He said, do you need the net? And at that point it was ready to be boat flipped, so I just went to swing it and hit the side of the boat, and I had to drag that sucker up over the side. Wasn't expecting that, so I was like, all right, you know. He continued throwing a moving bait and went a little bit further, and my line ran off again. I set the hook and it was another good one. Now this one fought a little bit. He come up back there and netted it. It was a 4-pounder. So that gave me 2 for probably 9.5 pounds right off the bat, probably first 10 minutes of the day. That was actually good enough to win this tournament. I ended up catching another one at the end of the day on a baby brush hog, just, you know, flipping it around like I did all day. Those are the only 3 fish I caught. He ended up picking up a flipping bait after I caught those 2 hogs and ended up catching a 5.5 pounder, but that was about it. We struggled for most of the day. We were fishing this one pocket, you know, it was probably an hour into the day, and he was throwing in the back of a pocket with a frog, and he was fishing really slow at that point. I just started, like I said before at the beginning of this video, I really was paying attention to water movement and fish movement, and I actually saw a swirl up against a seawall, and I casted to it about 3 or 4 times with a Texas rig. I couldn't get that fish to bite, and I actually slid my weight up the line just a little bit, maybe 3 inches, and threw back in there, and I got that sucker to bite. I set the hook, and it was like a 2.5 pounder, which was pretty cool because I showed you guys that tip before we even went about sliding, you know, using 2 pegs on your Texas rig to be able to move where that weight is pegged on your line. It doesn't always have to be pegged right against the bait. And by doing that, I was able to generate a bite. I think that fish kind of got used to my creature coming down there on its bed. And then as soon as I just made some sort of adjustment, it triggered that bite. Unfortunately, fish come up jumping. I kind of looked back. I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. I wanted to look to see what my boater was doing, if he was getting a netter or if I was going to have to, you know, somehow, you know, think about swinging the fish. And before I knew it, it'd come off, and that sucked. But I had a lot of time. I still had 2 giants in the boat, and then I didn't get another bite until the very last cast of the day. I caught a 15-incher. That gave me a little over 11 pound with 3 fish. Second place was 830. So that last fish was actually meaningless other than just pride and some weight as far as, you know, I guess a tiebreaker for angler of the year. I think they go by overall weight, so that fish might be important come the end of the year. This win did jump me up in the standings. I am now leading the angler of the year race. I think I have a 4 or 5 point lead on second. The next tournament is in May at High Rock Lake. You know, that time of year is probably my favorite time of the year at High Rock. You know, the shad spawn goes on. It's only in a couple weeks. It's actually going to be the last tournament of a very busy week for me. I'm fishing the Bassmaster Open on bugs during the week, and then there's a BFL on bugs on Saturday, which I'm fishing, and then the ABA is on High Rock on Sunday. So by that time, I might be a little burnt out, but I need to have a good tournament there. I need to, you know, keep the momentum going. Hopefully, I cash checks in all 3 of them tournaments that week and bring home some money, maybe bring home some content for you guys. But that was High Rock. You know, I get another win, another big fish, a couple checks to take to the bank. It was a good tournament. I can't complain. I appreciate you guys watching. These Co-Angler Diary videos haven't been getting a lot of viewership. So if there's something you'd rather see instead, or maybe, you know, if you don't like them, if you want to tell me why, I'd appreciate it. And if there's anything you want to see, anything specific, if you have a question about fishing as a co-angler, you know, drop me a comment down below. Maybe I'll answer it as far as what I feel is important. But I do appreciate you guys watching the duration of this video. So we'll see you next time. I gotta get fishing. The fish are biting up home, and I'm gonna have a lot of videos coming out soon. So see you later, guys.